generally dominated by instability and conflict ever since the 1960s, which has made media and a lot of textbooks to portray Africa in that manner. And Europe took advantage of this and instituted their rule, sealing Africa's fate. This has led to many developed nations to have this perception. Due to the European states having great influence in the world, their perspective, Africa globalized. So, like, my mom, she's had experience of discrimination, like, after living in Nigeria for 15 years and then coming back to live in America in college. Someone said to her about like how they thought people in Africa didn't wear clothes and how like they like climbed trees and like acted like monkeys because like that was their only perception of Africa. And like according to PBS, there's a guy named Henry Louis Gates Jr. and he was like holding an interview and he states, quote, "I think the achievements have been obscured, first of all, because of slavery. 12.5 million Africans were shipped across the Atlantic Ocean between the 16th century and the 19th century. 12.5 million Africans shipped to enslavement in the New World," end quote. So, like, when he's saying this, like, he shows how Africa's beauty, he's trying to state how, like, Africa's beauty and culture and art in Africa has been skewed due to them being undeveloped and thus easily controlled for slavery to occur. And because Europe took control of it, all of the states have great influence in the world, and thus, like, with the diffusion of their ideas, that also went their perspective on Africa. And some people might say, like, oh, like other states were controlled and imperialized during this time period, and now like Philippines by the U.S. and what we're learning now. But like Africa, like now, like still nowadays, when people like talk about like a specific country like Nigeria or like different countries, they'll refer to it and to like as Africa as a whole and not see how like Africa isn't just the whole thing. There's different cultures and new things to it, and that's according to this NPR article. And also Gates Jr., he states how, quote, "And then after 1884 was the conference in Berlin, and when European power sat down, looked at the empty map of Africa, and basically carved it up like a covered pizza pie, and then they go, you're Spain, what do you want? You're Italy, what do you want? You're England, what do you want?" End quote. So when he states this, he's trying to portray that Europeans, like, they didn't see Africa as different cultures in a place of diversity, but of primitive people who didn't have any like kind of control or organization. And the European powers in the world now, they like, since they have great influence in the world, they're able to globalize their ideas like with their commodities and everything, and they weave it into that. And prior to colonization, Africa was intertwined with the world, like as they traded like in the Mediterranean Sea, and like they traded with like the Islamic empires. They were a power in the world. But then like when imperialism came along, it did like Europe distorted everyone's views, and thus it changed how everyone saw Africa. So a solution to this would be like, instead of like right now we're learning about imperialism, how like Africa got taken over and like this the scramble for Africa, but instead of just like glossing over and looking at it from the European point of view and saying how like, oh, Africa was like, they were just nothing, and then like we made them not primitive anymore. But like instead look at it from like an African standpoint and see their culture and like how everything was like ruined because of the Europeans and how it caused conflict and it changed the scape of Africa as a whole.
So, although I agree with your claim that the Europeans, through their colonization, have spread their idea that Africans are bad, that Africans are underdeveloped, I believe that we should not focus on the past. We should focus on what's happening right now, the culture of Africa now. The main problem, I believe now, is that the Western world perceives Africa as one, as was stated by The Guardian. A lot of times in even scientific papers, when we refer to Africa or African countries, we generally refer to Africa as seemingly as if it was one country. The reason I believe, the main reason I believe that this is happening is because Africa does not have a lot of media coverage in Western countries. A lot of Western people do not know how to differentiate one African culture from another. And we know that Africa has a lot of tribal people, a lot of ethnicities, and each of those ethnicities has a different culture, different language, and so on. So because of this, I believe that in order to help cure this misunderstanding, so to speak, of Africa and African cultures, we need to focus on promoting African media in Western countries, and not only promoting that media, but also try to organize more events in African countries. For example, we all know that in the 2010 South Africa hosted the first World Cup that was hosted by an African country, and that has shown to have a lot of improvements on South Africa's economy, South Africa's tourism. We have seen that 300,000 tourists went to South Africa specifically for that event. And there's a 9% increase in the awareness of South Africa as a tourist destination. And with all these tourists coming into that country, it's generally known that those tourists are going to gain a better appreciation, better knowledge about that country and that country's cultures. And this can be used to bridge that misunderstanding that a lot of Western countries have a lot about African countries. Thank you.
Although I agree with your claim that we should increase tourism in African countries, I believe that media coverage will help Africa a lot more. So instead of a 9% increase in awareness of African culture, I believe that by increasing media coverage and letting every common person on social media, on the news, on every online aspect, we could increase so much awareness. And because most African countries are like labeled as undeveloped by European imperialism, the American view of African countries has been heavily impacted. So instead of showing Africa as a continent full of warring tribes, the media could focus on African culture today and the technologies they have now. So, and also instead of just focusing on the sub-Saharan and Central African countries throughout the eastern coast and the southern half, we could show a not as one-sided view of Africa and show that there is not a lot of conflict as much as they show in media and through the movies and all that. So the main source of information to people is the news, and if we use the news to inform people of the current events in Africa, we'll spread knowledge to the people who are ignorant of the state of Africa, and this will help spread knowledge, and it'll also help people become aware and donate and contribute to societies that help African countries. And the National Interest is a website that primarily focuses on the information about current events and conflicts and wars, and it shows that most of the armed violence in Africa is only concentrated in Mali, Nigeria, the Central African Republic, Sudan, and Somalia. So these countries shouldn't define the entire state of Africa, and if we get media to start covering more like African countries, we can show that this isn't what Africa is. So we can help stop the stereotype by spreading more news and information. So the solution to this is super simple, and instead of just increasing tourism, we could just increase media coverage, and that's fairly cheap. Like, you don't even have to be in Africa to teach about what's occurring in Africa. You could have volunteer nonprofit organizations that go there, spread awareness, make videos about it, open up donation funds to help this small amount of countries that are going through tribal wars and all that. And to stop this misrepresentation of Africa, all we have to do is start teaching people on social media, on the news. So, as of now, there's such little media coverage about Africa that, according to NPR, there's a famine going on in Somalia right now as we speak, which could be the biggest, that may be the worst humanitarian disaster since World War II. And right now, like, no one I've talked to so far knows about it. And there's so many people going through hardships and dying, their livestock is dying. We might lose all their culture just because of a famine. And if there was more news coverage, people could know they could reach out and help Somalia and all the other surrounding countries.
Even though you think that media coverage should be the main priority focus of Africa, I feel like the education should be valued more, because the education is going to affect the younger generations and the future generations to come. So the continent of Africa isn't studied in most countries because the world has prioritized European ideals. If Africa was introduced into curriculum, then students would not interpret the information accurately because the ideals are not in line with the current curriculum. So, according to The Guardian, The only part of curriculum that is mentioned is when individuals are discussing about slavery, the Civil War, and the Civil Rights Movement, which is treating the Black experience as a separate entity. The lowest grade learning about Black individuals is in 7th grade according to the Georgia curriculum, and the majority of the information is on physical aspects of Africa, such as the cities, the geography, precipitation, the climate, but not the actual people in the climate. So the solution to this is to offer more curriculum to Africa by finding individuals who are capable of teaching the subject matter and also promoting so that the students be able to show awareness. And you can promote the curriculum anywhere, not only in Africa. You can do it from America, from any other countries, and other people can learn about it no matter who it is. So by broadening the curriculum, more people are able to learn. So Africa is not only the place misinterpreted in the world. There are many countries around the world that are also misinterpreted. However, the main problem with Africa is that it is classified as a country and not a continent.
Like we should increase programs in Africa and like focus on the now instead of the past. But like programs that has to come with development as well because it costs money to bring programs to Africa and to coordinate everything, and they can't occur unless Africa has like good technology to like that are now with like the day like nowadays. So. But like if we focus on the past, like I'm saying, and like bring more like African topics, and not only focus on the European perspective on things in history, then we can start from like the root of the problem. Because as Shravya said, nowadays like in 7th grade, like when people are first taught about Africa, all they're taught about is from the European perspective of like slavery, how the European took over, that imperialized them, and how like Africa had to like revolutionize and take back autonomy. But by doing this, we're able to like in like the new generation, we're able to like show them that how Africa isn't just something that we took over, and it's like as a whole people consider it a country when it's a continent with like many diverse cultures. So by hitting the main point of it from where people are learning it, then we can like solve the problem from proliferating throughout our generations.
Okay. So yeah, I do understand that by hosting these programs or hosting these events such as the World Cup, we do definitely need countries that are able to host those. South Africa is a very big economy, yeah. However, other countries are also developing. South Africa is only the 3rd largest economy in Africa. I believe that smaller events, the World Cup is a very large event, so only very big countries can host it. But other smaller events can be hosted by less developed countries. And when we see the number of viewers that are watching these events, such as the 2007 World Cup final, we can see that 322 million viewers worldwide, according to the FIFA, which is the worldwide governing body of football. We can see that that's a lot of viewers, and it's quite probable that the vast majority of those viewers are young people. We can see that, yeah, education is very important. It's a very integral part of young people's lives. However, I believe that by looking at this as kind of a popular culture, by spreading this culture, by seeing it as very appealing, that by these events, these young people can know more about African culture, be more exposed, and therefore be more interested and have less of a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but like if we don't start with the foundation of education, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we have media and programs like that are showing it to the younger audience, because since they already have a foundation of like what Africa is, it'll be hard to change it to with just that one viewing of Africa. Like it might give them like another sense of like what Africa's about, but like it won't give them like the core like about their culture, like their art and like how they started out, and to show people like they weren't primitive and like you can't just use scientific racism or like you like how the Europeans came in with imperialism and compared the skulls of gorillas to the Africans and showed how like their skulls were closer to gorilla skulls than Europeans. Like you can't just, they'll see how like that won't define Africans, like it'll define them by their culture and their works and like what they actually did, because you can't define another country based on what someone else did to them. You have to define them on like what their roots are and like what they're done and what they're all about.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that that's kind of I believe that education can be complementary to what I'm doing. However, I believe that kind of focusing on the past again, that's what I kind of find not appealing, I guess, in the education plan, because when we're looking at the past, we're kind of looking at what's happened to Africa, kind of the slavery, maybe looking at some African culture, maybe art history and stuff like that. However, if, when we look at that past, we see that a vast majority of it has been plagued by European influence. And when we look at that, we're not focusing on what Africa is today. Africa today is a continent of emerging economies, a continent of flourishing cultures. We can't simply overlook that. And I believe that media is much more effective and much more appealing way for Western culture, as we see now with the kind of the explosion of communication. I believe that that would be more effective.
I'm saying that media provides a great contribution to having public awareness, but having education for the younger generations should be more prioritized rather than the media, because if we educate the younger generations, then they can, when they become older, they can do something about this and have greater changes by when they get older, they can.
Well, I think it's more important to educate the adults about what's happening today. For example, the famine that's occurring in Somalia right now. Almost no one I know knows about it. And I think if we get more people to know about it through social media, we can alert services to help the people in Somalia. Because if we don't, it's getting worse exponentially. Millions of people are going to die. And apparently it's the worst humanitarian disaster that's occurred since World War II. So if we get airlines that fly out to Somalia, such as Turkish Airlines, to volunteer and volunteer a ship, a plane to go fly out, send supplies, we might be able to avert this huge disaster that's about to come and get worse. So if we help educate the adults, they can put in some of the money they earn into these underdeveloped countries and maybe help them become better. So I believe it's more important to educate. We should educate the children, but we should also tell people through the media what's happening today, so adults who have money can help.
But the media is skewed, especially in America, because privately owned news companies, they have big headlines and they try to make the problem seem over-exaggerated, or sometimes they under-exaggerate it, so the public isn't actually sure of what to believe necessarily.
Well, as of now, for the famine that's occurring in Somalia, no major headline, no major company like CNN or Fox is covering what's happening right now. It's all by the people through like social media, like Twitter, where they're tweeting at Turkish Airlines to go volunteer and help what's happening in Somalia. So even if the people come together and are educated through even social media, because nowadays everyone's on social media, young and old, we could help stop a major disaster.
I see your point. So we had to educate the media, we have to educate the public through the media, and it should be also implemented into the curriculum of your students also.
Yeah, so not only is education through schooling important, but also through social media and media.
The problem that's happening right now is that Western culture does not know about African culture. We're not aware. We cannot differentiate one African country from another African country simply because we don't have the awareness of this African culture. And how we can better this misunderstanding of African culture is that we can promote African media, we can promote African culture, we can promote worldwide events in Africa that will create a better notion about Africa all across the Western world. As I've said before, events such as the 2010 World Cup have improved awareness of Africa as a tourist destination. And by improving tourism to African countries, we can
Like the reason why Africa is misrepresented is because Europeans, they took control of Africa, and like because of their great influence, they were able to diffuse their perception of Africa, which was that they're like primitive people, and it's like backed up by scientific racism and like their other they had ways to prove that like Africa was primitive, and like they portrayed this by carving up Africa into like different states, like not based on their cultures, but like based on like just who would get the land, like Italy and like different states. So in order to solve this, we should instead implement, instead of like having schools where Africa is just seen as like a slave, like just for slaves, and like the Europeans' perception and perspective on it. We should do it from an African's perspective and show the culture and like art and like everything like Africa had before Europeans came in and like destroyed everything, so that we could see how like students, they'll be able to see that Africa wasn't just like a place where Europeans do whatever they want and they, for the scramble of Africa, do whatever they want. Instead, Africans had like, they're just like us, where they have culture and they have like life and practices and traditions.
Just like as of right now, education in America of Africa incorporates just geography, climate, and like cities and stuff, but it doesn't talk about the people's culture. So we need to make sure to include that and to study more about it, have more available resources for people to be able to incorporate that into the curriculum. And also, like a bedside being.
So I agree. In order to stop these stereotypes facing Africa, and for instead of people to view Africa as one whole, as many different cultures and different countries with different people and lifestyles, through the media we can help educate people about current events happening in Africa and also what has already happened, in order to help people understand what's happening there and know that this is a very special thing that happened after imperialism. African culture's basically been divided in so many different places thanks to the Europeans, but now we can help fix that by helping to educate people to help Africa even more. And through the media and social media, we can help people like give money towards countries that need help, such as Somalia and its bordering countries like Ethiopia or Sudan.